What cringe thing that you did in your lifetime keeps you up at night? Lie about stupid things like how rich my parents were, places we traveled to, etc. I grew up dirt poor with struggling parents. My old Facebook statuses from the 2008 to 2012. Those stupid Farmville shares, with posts that are typed like T is because it'll look at COL. Facebook really needs a delete all before X year button. It was my first day in high school and we were supposed to introduce ourselves through a skit. Well, I introduced myself like I was a WWE wrestler, complete with my own ring entrance walk, chants that I thought were supposed to hype up my new classmates, and even had a made up wrestler nickname LMAO. I still wake up sweating every now and then remembering that. Entering Mrs. Johnson's classroom, ITs. Tony, here comes the tea. Here comes the tea. In an attempt to be less awkward, I'm trying to take more time to think before I speak. This backfired in a big way in December. I ran into a cousin who I hadn't seen for a few years. He said hello and I was trying to think of a greeting since it was just about Christmas. I thought I would say season's greetings or something, but then I realized that might be a bit lame. So while I'm internalizing this in my head, I'm basically just staring at the guy, who is probably thinking I don't recognize him, so now I begin to panic. Now I will need to include his name in this greeting so he doesn't think I'm rude. It's been a long time. I still haven't said anything. It feels like the most time ever since anyone has ever talked. So in my head I'm like, okay, say something. Anything has got to be better than this. But in my panic all words leave my brain and what comes out is, congratulations, Joshua. I once passed what might have been the most disgusting sounding fart of all time, in front of a 100+ person class while giving a presentation. To try to cover it up, I said, well, excuse you, professor, my friends still haven't let me live that one down. Gonna use a throwaway for this one because it literally still makes me cringe really hard, and the people involved probably don't know, or they're so kind that they pretend not to. I moved to a different city when I was in 9th grade and would mostly keep in touch with my classmates on Yahoo chats. Yeah, I'm ancient. I was a shy kid and wasn't adjusting super well in the new school, but my old friends kept asking about my new friend, so I invented one. His name was Chris, I think, and he was Australian. And no, I didn't know of Chris Hemsworth at the time. I gave him his own Yahoo, chatted and everything. Made him talk to my friends. He got particularly close to one of my female friends. She ended up telling me she had a crush on him. This was messed up because Chris didn't exist, so she technically had a crush on me, I think. B. One of my other friends had a major crush on her and this imaginary Chris was now messing up his chances. I went into panic mode and ended up having Chris move back to Australia and stop using his account. I did not plan that well and my friends probably know if it was me and didn't want to embarrass me with a confrontation. Bless them. It's been over a decade and I still physically cringe when I think of that time. The two friends of mine did end up dating and were together for a couple of years. I'm still in touch with those guys. My crush came to my house to do a high school project. It involved the internet, and while she sat next to me she tried to navigate to Google on my computer. Unfortunately, the address bar auto-filled and took her to my last Google search. Page 2 of results for her name. Every link had been clicked. We both just sat in silence. I'm so frickin' sorry, dude. Yelling in a library when I played shooting games back when I was a kid. It was a small library and everybody could hear me when I was yelling things like crap, die. The librarian came over to tell me to be quiet, but still remember everyone staring at me. Still burns, man. Freaking hacking piece of crap. Oh sorry mom. Asked my crush out. She said OMG you what the frick, and ran away. Her friends nearby looked like they had witnessed a murder. I am still haunted by this. Her friends nearby looked like they had witnessed a murder. They did. When I was 14, for some reason I tried to do the surprise kiss to a girl I was hanging out with at the time. Needless to say it didn't work and she just said, dude, WTF are you doing? Thankfully no one else noticed and she told me she was cool with it and I should just forget about it. Yeah, I didn't. I wanna shoot myself every time I think about it. When I was a teenager I had a little crush on one of my female friends. One day she starts hitting on me and suggestively nibbles and sucks on my finger. I get all nervous and jokingly say, hey, you don't know where that finger's been. I wake up some nights in a cold sweat remembering the look on her face at that moment. When I was about 7 or 8, I went to a summer camp. One day, the camp had a talent show, and me, thinking I was a comical genius, thought it would be a good idea to tell a joke for my act. The joke, though, was one I heard at school and didn't really understand at the time. The joke was there were 4 people live in a building and the guy on the top floor loves to play with knives. The guy on the floor below him loves to pee out of the window. The guy below him loves to paint things green. The guy on the lowest floor loves to eat pickles. So there I am, a little innocent kid who doesn't even know what my balls are for, about to tell a super freaked up joke to about 30 kids and some young adult counselors. I explain the people that live in the building and then tell the joke. So, I said, the guy with the knives accidentally drops a knife out of his window. The guy peeing gets his wiener cut off. At this point the counselors were about to intervene. Then, the guy below him paints a falling wiener green. And the guy below him says, oh look, a pickle, and eats the pickle. Needless to say, the counselors were not too happy, and they had my parents come pick me up, and didn't let me come back to the camp for the rest of the week. I was crying like crazy. You can see the punchline a mile away. The counselors could have stopped you if they wanted, but I guess they too had a laugh in private. I was very shy growing up and had trouble carrying a conversation. Writing was a strength, though, so I decided to handwrite a note to the girl I had a crush on and put it in her locker. Cringe by itself. To my surprise, she came up and started talking to me the next day after school. I had imagined her most likely ignoring my letter or if anything writing back. I was so extremely flustered all I could focus on was her smile and the heat of my full face blush. She finished what she had to say and walked away. Then, to my horror, I realized I had no idea what she said. That makes me uncomfortable. I was still inexperienced with my GF at the time and thought it would be spontaneous and hot to pick her up off the bed and kiss her with her legs wrapped me standing up. However, she had no idea I was intending to do this, so I struggled to lift her dead weight for a few agonizing seconds. Then I thought frick this and used all my strength to lift her up, but I overdid it, causing her to hit her head on the ceiling light. I drop her out of shock and she hits her head on the end of the bed. She was completely okay and we laughed about it, but I was so embarrassed. You ever just eat a bee? I lied to my counselors about getting into a certain pre-med program that apparently was a much bigger deal than I thought it was right before leaving for college. I had gotten into a pre-med program, but when asked on the spot I couldn't recall and I just agreed to whatever name was thrown out for it. They got super excited and congratulated me and I assumed that would be the end of it. Well, they made a huge announcement the next day over the PA system of the school congratulating me and even gave me a certificate and took pictures shaking my hand. Teachers were congratulating me all day and I even started getting special treatment. I'm sure they eventually found out after I left and I've been too embarrassed to even visit my old high school. There are lots of instances, but the one that I recall is this. It's optional, give your teacher some flowers day at school. I ask if I can get flowers the morning of, like the dumbass person I am. My stepmom is just like, oh well, go without them since you didn't prepare. Cut to me walking to school. I find these weeds with tiny little orange flowers on them. I thought they were pretty, so I picked some. I gave my teacher some dug up weeds with roots still attached and all as flowers. But that's a lot cuter than any generic gas station flowers. D. Every now and again I go back to my very first almost sexual encounter with a girl. She's got her hand on my thigh. She's running a finger over the bulge in my pants. She just told me I have really pretty eyes. Now would probably be a pretty good time to kiss her. Nah, I decided I needed to return the compliment, but I couldn't think of anything, so I blurted out that she was a butterface. Two things. She was not a butterface, and she didn't know what a butterface was. She asked me. I explained it to her. I remained a virgin for 6 more years. Picture it, kids. I'm a pimple-speckled 17-year-old who thinks his Star Wars star. Catholic school. Ties required, but you got to wear any tie you wanted. Was a form of rebellion against the man. I'm crushing hard on this girl. I don't know what to do, so I turn to movies for ideas. I wrote her a very, very bad poem proclaiming my love for her. I wrote it on fancy paper. I slipped it into her locker. Then, I timed it out so that I was standing behind her around the time she would be getting the letter, holding an origami rose that I spent entirely too much time in a pre-YouTube world trying to make. The fantasy was that she would open the letter, be touched deeply, turn and I'd be there and then we'd ride off into the sunset. In reality, she turned around, was surprised to find my idiot butt lurking behind her with a crap-eating grin on his face. And when I asked if she got my letter she said what letter? A moment of terror filled me as I worried I put it in the wrong locker. Nope. I stuck it in the vent of her locker door and it fell to the bottom of her locker. Why the frick wouldn't it? She didn't notice it because she didn't keep anything at the bottom of her locker. Books were on the top shelf and her coat went under it. She had no reason to look that far down except that I pointed it out. So she picked it up, tore it open, read it quickly and then said oh, it's cute before excusing herself as she had to go to class. My only solace is that because I experienced this in the first person, I don't actually have the image of my heartbroken idiot butt standing there on the verge of tears holding an origami rose while wearing a Chewbacca tie. I can't even try to imagine what it all looked like. It's too horrible a thought. Sometimes I watch Scott's Tots just to chase the memory away. This is awesome. Gave my ex by half a hand job while sitting across from his mom and our other friend at a restaurant. We were in high school. Looking back, she could definitely tell what was going on and I'm mortified every time I think about it. Jesus Christ. I had a massive inappropriate crush on my married math teacher in middle school. The poor man was clearly not at all endeared by it. Puberty was very cruel to me and I was not cute. On the last day of school, I was too shy to approach him to sign my yearbook, so I had my friends do it. He signed it and suddenly that's when I worked up the courage to go ask him myself. He awkwardly signed it a second time and didn't say a word to me. Yes, something tells me that him not being into it had nothing to do with puberty not being kind to you. It isn't to a lot of us. And everything to do with the fact that most normal, well-adjusted adults aren't interested in banging teenagers, I hope. In 3rd and 4th grade, I legit thought I was a cat. Like legit. I hissed, meowed, and scratched at people, and I also licked myself. Not like full-on bathing, but like my hands and stuff. And I always told people that I was a cat on the inside. I cringe so hard at this now. In my late teens I finally got the chance to have my first time with my so, but we had no condoms and couldn't obtain any at the time. In an act of desperation, I unscrewed the top of her vibrator and tried to use it as protection. We stopped 2 minutes in out of discomfort and mutual embarrassment. Like a flashlight. When I was 17 I went to my first party with alcohol and I was flirting with this random girl. She gave me drink after drink until I was feeling pretty bad. We ended up kissing. I threw up on her face. You all have it easy. In 5th grade I humped the desk while everyone was lining up, and when the teacher said to get in line, I said hold up. Once I was done the teacher stopped me and discreetly asked OP, are you excited? Concerningly of course, I responded with not anymore. WTF dude. I accidentally started a cult in high school. It all started with my group of friends having some laughs. I started to joke about being a family and gave everyone weird family roles, like you're the weird aunt, and you're the grandma, etc. But then there was one weird chick who started taking it super seriously and wrote down everyone's roles. Then she started adding tons of people and even started doing strange rituals to initiate people into the family. At that point I bailed. They ended up vandalizing property, threatening students and teachers, sent out death threats, etc. The police actually started watching them as a serious gang threat, all because of some frickin' joke I made. I've been involved in a number of cults. You make more money as a leader, but you have more fun as a follower. I know I'm late to the party here, but this crossed my mind and it makes me laugh as much as cringe. Scary Movie was just released and I was around 8 years old. I'd watched it at my cousin's house and a few days later while out shopping I said to my mum, oh, I heard a song on this funny film the other day. She said okay, let's hear it. I proceed to start rapping, slashing movements and all. I'm gonna slash and gash, cut another hole in your butt, spilt blood on the walls and play tennis with your balls. If the foe, it ended here as my mum, who has never upped a run since that point, hit me, gave me a right slap on the back of the head and just said number. This is so funny. I went to view an apartment since I was moving to a new area for a job. I got there over an hour and a half early and the weather was fantastic. There was a pub nearby which was a lovely little place, so I went there for some lunch, a few cheeky beers in the sun before the viewing. So, time gets a ticking and I make my way down the road to this really nice building. I walk up to the door, press the bell, and I'm greeted by an older gentleman. He's silver haired, maybe 50. The door is at least a foot off the ground since there's a tall step and he reaches out for a handshake. I misinterpret this because of the height. I reach out and do one of those things where you grab their hand and you pull them close and pat their back. I'm not sure how to explain that, but that's what happened. Since he was a foot taller and unsure what was happening, I just ended up headbutting his chest. We then just stood there staring at each other like WTF just happened. It was a lovely place, but I could never see that man again. Hahaha OMG. This story makes me laugh so much. This thread has already taken off, but it's good to get things off your chest, so here goes. I worked at a university library in college. My supervisor was a super sweet black woman, whom I assumed was very religious based off of her jewelry alone. One day, she sent out a mass email announcing that it was National Library Workers' Day, complete with a graphic that she probably quickly dragged off of a Google image search for library worker. It happened to be an ad for a dive bar in NYC's East Village called The Library, featuring a sexy librarian for the dyke night they were having. So, sweet Bibigeral supervisor ignores the text at the bottom of the image saying dyke night the 4th of October 2008 at 10 PM. Bring your pee or whatever, and sends it to the entire university. I, in my infinite 19 years old wisdom, decide this is so funny that I cut and paste her entire email, full name and all, to my public LiveJournal. Yeah, you'll remember LiveJournal, right? This was over a decade ago. Whatever. Well, come to find sweet Bibigeral supervisor is a PhD student. She's trying to publish, and part of that process is making sure you don't have anything on the internet negatively associated with you. So she googles her name, and finds my LiveJournal. I thought I was slick. My name wasn't associated with the blog. However, it was obvious that it was owned by someone that worked there, mostly because I wrote a crappy post talking about what a total pious dum-dum she was and how I couldn't believe someone so inept could be the smartest person on earth's supervisor. Well, the smartest person on earth put her relatively obscure major in her LiveJournal bio. I was the only employee with that major. One day at work she asked to see me in a back room. I had no clue what to think. It was impossible to get in trouble at that job. Then she explained the situation to me. I should have denied it. I should have. She asked why I did it, and in a panic, I told her this, that I have split personalities. My other personality, the one that runs that blog, thinks all those things about her. Me? I'm the good one. I would never. I'm appalled. I put my hand on her shoulder. I tell her I feel like I need to buy her a present to make up for my other personality's horrible actions. When she asks me why I thought she was religious, I said again, a panic. Well, because you're black. Needless to say, she never talked to me again, and they didn't fire me, but instead just slowly stopped scheduling me until I only had like 5 hours a week, effectively forcing me to quit. Every time I think about this I get so mortified that it trips my gag reflex. That just kept getting worse and worse. I made a YouTube video when I was 12 in which I expressed that I thought that emo kid from Horton Hears a Who was mexy. I asked in 6th grade, in front of the whole class, why does my pee-pee sometimes get big and hard? Someone freaking kill me PLS. Was in a taxi back from town with my wife and some friends and started to discuss my other friend's new girlfriend. Everyone saying how nice she was and really suited. Then for some reason I come out with, yeah, and she's got them tig oldie bits. Nobody spoke for the rest of the journey. Wife was pretty angry. I was an E4 in the army at the time. I was in a position where I worked with our unit's first sergeant a lot. E8. Basically my boss's boss's boss. He was an angry man 24/7, and I'd say my job and overall life were pretty crap as a result. On this particular day we were at the unit building pretty late. I basically was stuck in the building until he left every day. To give some context on what my surroundings looked like, imagine a walkway and kind of an entry chamber. Ahead is a hallway that leads to a big bay where everyone does their stuff. And then adjacent to this entry chamber is a door leading into a conference room, where our leadership's offices are also located. So I'm chilling in this entry room waiting on him to be done with whatever he was doing in the conference room next door. His wife comes in to bring him dinner, and stays in there talking with him for maybe 20 minutes or something. Here it comes. You ever just do some random crap while you're really bored? Like when nobody is there? Maybe talk to yourself or do kung fu? Just truly be yourself? Well, I decided that right then and there was the moment that I would practice doing the robot. Like full on robot. All the way committed robot. Got the arms and the legs going. I'm doing the crap out of this robot. There is no reason for this. There isn't even any thought. I don't know why, but that's just what was happening. I'm in uniform. My boots are making squeak sounds on the floor and crap. The 1SG's wife walked out of the conference room and caught me mid-robot. Like, full on eye contact, mouth open, what the frick gaze. The scariest man in my unit's wife just caught me getting it on the robot. I freaking jolted out of it and just stood there looking back at her. And I couldn't even say a word. It felt like a bag of bricks was in my stomach. Bless her freaking heart. She didn't say a word and just walked out of the building quietly. She's the real MVP in this story, because I know if she had told him at any point, everyone I know would have mercilessly roasted me about this for years. I thought about this story the other day and it made my stomach hurt. I've never felt more vulnerable or naked in front of someone else's eyes as I did that day. She glimpsed into my freaking soul. This is so cute though. What a downer that she didn't have a giggle with you. It's not like she's military. It's also not like you were doing something gross, you were just doing a little dance. I think my best was I had already banged this chick that I just met, but I wasn't feeling it after that. So I wanted to go get some alcohol. She's like, what? Do you need to be drunk to frick me? And I blurt out it wouldn't hurt. Never heard from her again after that. Sounds like it did hurt. See, the problem is I can only remember the cringe things I do when I'm trying to go to bed. I can't just pull it up from the files on the spot. It has to be when I'm really tired and just want to sleep. 1988, me and my best friend in the middle of a busy nightclub dance floor in the UK, in our black, speckled with white, suits, sleeves pulled up, like Miami Vice, doing the jacking dance to Yaz The Only Way Is Up. Somebody kill me. Bruh, you been embarrassed longer than I've been alive. I remember this like it happened yesterday. I was an angsty teen in the 90s. That meant in high school I wore enormous JNCO jeans everywhere and carried all my art supplies around with me in a defaced Barbie lunchbox. That alone is cringy enough. But on this fateful day I was running late to catch my bus to school. I sprinted as fast as I could down my hill, which caused me to trip over my pants, sending the contents of my lunchbox flying. I remember landing at the bottom of the hill in a pile of markers and pencils in front of the entire school bus. Why my mom let me walk around in those stupid fricking pants, I'll never know. Why my mom let me walk around in those stupid fricking pants. As a parent, you gotta pick your battles. Ulrich, so back in 8th grade we had German lessons. I was okay friends with the teacher, and right when he was done with giving us a task to do for ourselves, I half-jokingly asked him in what I thought was somewhat privacy between us, why is Arnold Schwarzenegger named Schwartz as in black and Negger as in yay. I looked around in the class and everyone was just looking at me in silence until my teacher just said something along the lines of, I dunno man. That's a legitimate question, I guess. I grabbed my teacher's shoe. While she was wearing it, I was on my hands and knees trying to reach out to get something off the floor, and instead of picking it up, grabbed her shoe. It was in front of the whole class. That sounds like a weird porno. Just imagine the potential. Oh boy, here we go. I never spoke about this to anyone before. My husband, at the time boyfriend, and I started dating when I was 13. I was 14 at the time of this story, so I am at his house having dinner with his parents, and somehow the subject of, how would you like to die, came up. Without thinking, I blurted out that I wanted to be murdered. I had an obsession at the time with ghosts and the paranormal. and I thought the only way to become one was to be murdered. I'm 24 and still cringe so hard late at night when this randomly pops into my head. When I was 16 I had this huge crush on this girl who hung out with the popular crowd. I was texting her one day and out of the blue she sends me a message that said RUDTF. I typed her out this huge message that said I really liked her, was currently on ecstasy, and was ready if she thought she was. Turns out she was hanging out with a big group of friends, and knowing she was talking to me, one of the guys took her phone and sent me that. Pretty sure they all saw it. Cue the most awkward years of my life as I die inside for good. Capital F. Girl in my high school class had been off for a few weeks because her mum had passed away. Whole school was talking about it. Cue a few weeks later when she's back at school and everyone's starting to chat to her and get back to the normal banter. One of my friends says something that she didn't particularly like and she replies with, "That's it, I'm going to tell on you." Without hesitation my dumb 13-year-old butt immediately replies, "Who are you going to tell? Your mum?" I've never regretted anything more in my entire life than that one sentence. Jesus Christ. If you are new to the channel, you can subscribe. I publish new videos every day. Until then, check another video. Bye for now.